Oh, yeah.
And you're on.
All right. Peace, and many blessings. It's an honor to be. Turn it down. It's an honor to be here today for another class or information on communication and translation. Um, Today I'll be going over the learning style, the teaching style, the memorization style, and the present moment style. And I also will be making the connections to what is the connection between the way that you learn and the way that you remember and the way that you teach and its connection to your present moment. All right. So great. All right. So I like to always start by saying that there are pretty much four different learning styles, and that is auditorial, visual, textile, which is feel, and step by step, which is cyclical. These four type of styles govern the four different aspects of what we use in communicating with one another. And these four aspects in which we communicate with one another is based off what is actually happening right now, something that we have learned, that we're learning, something that we're teaching, and something that we remember. This is the four aspects which we are communicating inside of a conversation. Inside of a conversation, we are operating up under the dualistic principle of the whole, which is the opinion. We're stating our opinions. And an opinion, if we break it down, OP representing skill, N as a connector, and ion, which is positive and negative charge, like atoms. So here we have an opinion, meaning skill in positive and negatives, which we call thoughts and feelings. An opinion is a dualistic aspect, just like a relationship is a dualistic aspect. Man and woman together is a relationship. If you're by yourself and not with a partner, you're single, whether it's male or female. And we can identify that male, that's the male, and that's a female. When they're together, that's a couple. Well, an opinion is the same word or label as a relationship or a couple. In order for you to give somebody your opinion, you must state in the beginning of the sentence that this is my thought. After you express your thought, then this is the feeling. Or if you express your feeling first, you express this is how I feel, and then this is what I think. Now that's an opinion. Without giving the duality without giving the duality that makes up the whole, you're not actually giving an opinion. You're either giving your thought or your feeling. Your thought and your feeling together expressed is the opinion. It being separate is the thought and the feeling. Okay. So now, when we're giving our opinions, which is our thoughts and feelings, they are being communicated in what we call dialogue or sounds or arrangement of sounds, which we call language. All right. Within language carries, though we are listening to sound, all sounds that we hear are not being retained as just auditorial information. For example, when one tells a person to look, though you are hearing the word look, the action of look actually happens. If a person is communicating listen, the act of listening happens. If a person communicates the wording here, grab this, the act of having some grabbing, holding on to something. If a person says move there, then move there, or step one, step two, automatically it is some type of cycle, some type of movement is happening. So though we are speaking the language and wording in which we choose is expressing either auditorial truth, visual truth, cyclical rhythmic movement truth, or hands-on feeling truth. And we know these terminologies based off when we're hearing a person communicate them. Okay, so within this aspect, you have an auditorial learner. An auditorial learner is a person that learns from the value of things, meaning sound. If a person asks you what happened in the movie, though within the movie there are aspects that there are a lot of parts that happen, what you're going to communicate is only the part that is valuable to you. So that is the auditorial aspect of the truth, is that which is valuable. When we choose to speak on things, we choose to speak on the aspects of value. So another word for auditorial is value. These are the people that can listen to lectures, don't have to watch it, but simply go listen to the lecture. They actually, speaking for them is actually learning. So when they're talking, it's actually learning, and hearing for them is learning. Those are auditorial learners. Now you have the visual learner. The visual learner are the people that have to see the reaction, see you do it. It must be visible in their ability to cause what we would call distinctiveness, separation, placements. That's the visual learner. Everything has to be in a certain place. The visual truth is everything is either left, right, up, down, in the middle. It's a circle, triangle, square. It is distance from this. It is tall or short. That is visual. And the visual is always reactionary. That means that the visual person has to go off what they can see or what's reacting. They're not capable, they're not seeing themselves, because it's like if a person asks you why you're looking like that. You can't see the way that you're looking, right? Everything else, you're observing everything else around you, reacting, unaware of the visual aspect of the self. So this is the visual learners. They have to be able to see what it is in order for it to be learned from. So a key word for a visual learner be watch or look. You say those words right there, it has a magnetic effect, because all of a sudden it comes into this action of looking. All right, now you have your, what I call, well, they say the textile. I like to use the word the experience or feeler. These are the people that are hands-on. I do it with me, or I have to get involved. They only learn from things that are tangible, things that they can put their hands on. Using a word like experience causes a magnetic effect on them, or feel, or grab. You feel me? These aspects, these type of words have a magnetic effect because it has to be something tangible, something that can be grabbed, something that can be experienced in order for it to be learned from. These are the textile, experience, feeler learners. You have your next learner, which is step-by-step learners. These are the people that must have things broken down. It has to be certain movement or progression or degression, a cyclical aspect. It has to be things that can be moved from here to there. It has to be able to be shifted, movement, in order for it to be learned from. So it cannot be things that are sitting still like the visual. It cannot be something that is a sound, which is just being heard, and it cannot be something that's tangible, that is still. It has to be always being able to be in motion. It has to be able to be arranged this way, that way, this way, that way. It's an arrangement of things. Things are always positioned a certain type of way. It's a pattern, it's a sequence to things, because this shows consistency. This is a continuation of something. This is growth or decretion. So they learn from movement, things that are in movement. This is how they learn. Okay, so these styles are cyclical into all of the degrees in which we communicate. We have the teaching style. The same rules apply. You have the auditorial teacher. These are the type of people that's always going to communicate to you the value of things. Then you have the visual teacher is always going to give you the vision of things. You have the feeling teacher, which is always going to give you the experience of things. And you have the process or step-by-step cyclical teacher that is always going to teach you the development of things, the progression, the way it's going, the movement, the cycles. And this same technique goes for memory. You have the visual memory, which is the person that holds that has the ability to travel into and travel into the past and vision, or can go into the future and vision. They have what they call photographic memory. They remember the picture, they remember the imagery. Then you have the feeling memory, which has the ability to travel into the past or the future based off the experience. They remember the experience, the way it felt, things that were tangible. Then you have the auditorial memory, which is the person that remembers what they heard or is connected into the value. They remember the things that is valued, what was put sound to. And then you have the step-by-step memory, which is the person that remembers the events, the cycles, the progression or digression of the way things was moving, what was the time frames. And the same law also applies for the present moment. You have some people who are present moment visual, where they only get only thing that exists in the present moment is that which is seen. Then you have auditorial. Only thing that exists in the present moment is only things that is heard. You have a step-by-step present moment, which is everything that is in motion. And then you have feeling, where everything is simply felt. All right, so these are the four aspects in which we're communicating in our present moment, which is the now, which is actually the true place of the feeling. When another word for present moment is feel, because the physical body is always in the present moment. So that is the aspect that is the present moment. There's four different aspects of that which people tend to relate to in the present moment, but the physical body is always in the present moment. It's always connected to the timing of the sun, to the timing of the moon, to the stars and the planets, to the atmosphere, everything. The physical body is always in the present moment. It cannot go into the past and it cannot go into the future. It is always omnipresent. So the physical body is the present moment. And the mind, thought, which is logic, is what is the past or future. Because the mind is only thinking about the past or the future. When the mind tries to think on the present moment, it has already became past. The body is connected to it. So thinking of the body is the only thing that's connecting the hemispheres of these two divisions. This is the union. All right. So now that that's been told, I have visual pictures that I have up that give a visual representation of different learning styles, and I can show within pictures how the artists visually, you can see the artists, what they were teaching, what their learning style was, their present moment and memory style. Because even within the artwork, the same way me being an auditorial learner, I can hear the way a person remembers, and I can hear the way a person teaches, and so forth. But I can show the same technique and ability within visual information. So we have an example of a picture that I could break down. All right, so this picture right here, the artist we can see that this artist, what they're depicting right now in this picture is that they are a step-by-step teacher. They are step-by-step, the process teacher. And how we know this is because the aspect that is standing out, that is in bigger formation, is we have these pillars. We have 1, 2, 3 pillars. So that's letting you know this is the count. 1, 2, 3. And then what else do we have in the background? We have these where they have like the little clock, the little things that's in the clock, the little rotator things. We have that aspect. So this is all keeping up with cycles and time. So that's magnified. So we know that he's teaching that this is a process. All right. What is being learned in this aspect? What is the characteristics that we're seeing that is being done here? We have a person that is looks like they're writing in a book, a person that's in the tablet, and another person that's looking into the phone. So we have a step-by-step process teacher that is a visual learner, right? Because this is what they are
So
doing.
so so real quick. So all of the images that you're going to show in terms of the different styles of learning, these are all process teachers, correct?
They're different. They're different ones.
Okay.
This particular one right here. This is a process teacher. That's a visual learner because
Okay.
the the main focus that he's putting a lot of energy into is that there's a count, there are cycles. You see this threes, and then you see these two things that's connecting to the spin of things. But what the activity in which is happening, the underlying tone, is that the characters that's engaging in the environment are visual. One's looking into
Hmm.
the tablet. One is looking into, I think that's like a notebook or a phone, and the other one is looking. So all of them are looking. They're using visual. So this is a picture showing a process. This is what the process teaching style looks like, because it's the style that's going to be magnified, and the underlying tone will be that which is learned, and that's the vision. So step by step is
So
what's
in
being taught. Mhm.
So for a visual learner, whether we're in a conversation with each other or whether you're teaching me in the classroom, what's the best way to deal with or to approach or communicate? I'll use the word communicate with a visual learner.
The best way to communicate with a visual learner, and
Hmm.
well, it's definitely going to be have to catch their attention because they're learning anyway, because everything is visual,
Right.
so they're automatically
Uh
learning.
huh.
So when it comes to the only aspect that we truly are sharing, especially when we're coming to teaching, is really this the through the sound. Because
Hmm.
if two people are looking at the same thing, how do we know that they are both seeing the same thing? We don't know
Mm,
until they say
right.
they're seeing the same thing. So the only thing that we're actually being able to share in the exchange of information is truly the sound. Though the vision is
Hmm.
shared, but without the sound, it doesn't give way to the connection, to the
So
shared connection.
I'm gonna ask you to explain that for us that have not studied this, because you know the vocabulary and the verbiage that
Mhm.
you're using, but for us, sound
Okay.
is what I say and how that hits your ear. Is that when we say sound? Is that what you're referring to? So if I
Say it
say
one more time.
something, it's how
Mhm.
that sound. So how if I say something, how that sound hits maybe your ears or your learning style, and when you say sound, is that what you mean when you say sound?
Right. Sound.
I'm
When
just
I'm
trying to
when I'm
break
using
down
the word sound,
the
I'm
verbiage,
using
the verbiage that you're using.
the verbiage. Right. Right. Like hello.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Chris. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
grab this for me. Look at this. This is the sound.
Okay. Okay.
This is the medium when we're teaching a person. Like we say, for example, a visual learner, they're always learning because everything that's in visual they see. But what we're trying to do
Mm-hmm.
is target them to see a specific thing that they are seeing. Because just because you see
Okay.
everything doesn't mean that you're exercising target, right? So this is what sound does. This is why I say sound creates value. Another word for target. You see everything,
Mm-hmm.
right? You see the whole thing. Well, like when I said it earlier, it's like, can you see my background? You saw it already anyway. But when I
Mm-hmm.
asked, then it connected. Are we seeing this? Like, okay, can you see the piano? So what I'm doing is creating
Mm-hmm.
value to the aspects which we call targeting. Yet we already see the visual aspect, but with creating the sound, it brings value, or what we call targeting.
So
Mhm.
I'm gonna so the questions that I'm asking you is more for clarity, um,
Mhm.
because the verbiage can sometimes be a barrier because I don't and I say for you in terms of me learning these learning styles as a teacher, and now you're re uh, making me aware of them in a different way and
Mhm.
in a more expanded way. The
Mhm.
verbiage is different from how my professors and how I've learned in a classroom. So the verbiage is the barrier for me. So my question should have been, how do I focus the attention on what I, as the teacher, am trying to teach for a visual learner? How do I focus their attention or
You
capture their
use
attention?
you use the word watch.
Watch. So watch this,
You got their attention.
and that has to be something that is thrown in there consistently, so I can keep that tension consistently.
All right.
So
So
I'm using the keywords to focus eyesight.
when it comes to a visual learner, we have
Mm-hmm.
to understand that the information is just being able to see it. So with visual learners, it doesn't require to be long-winded with them.
Right.
Because once you say watch and you give the description of it, they're only able to retain the knowledge of the descriptive properties of it. Now, if you go
Okay.
out, if you're going further out of the descriptive properties, then you're now it's getting fuzzy for them. For example, you tell them, look at this phone in my hand. You can see the phone in your hand, but then you say, look at how it feels. Now it's got outside of the
Mm-hmm.
peripheral.
Okay.
That information is not into the
So
laws of
for
vision.
so for a visual learner, I would probably need something concrete to show them,
It has to be it's going
or
to be concrete.
I have to use
You,
right, right.
and
So
it could be concrete
I'm
with
trying to
wording
figure
too.
out. Okay.
It'll be
Yeah, that was
concrete
my
with
other
wording
question.
too. So when you say
Hmm.
watch, you simply have to keep it very simple. Don't don't go into a lot of thinking. Huh?
Okay.
Pause for a second.
Okay.
Okay.
Hmm.
The green is forward now. Oh, okay. Let me take this. Okay.
That's
All right.
better.
So
So as we go through, real quick, as we go through the learning styles, I wanted to make a more or clarify some of the boundaries in terms of how people could hear this. I'm not saying people can't understand what you're saying, but to simplify it in a way where it is, I know what each one of the steps in terms of identifying them, and then what's the best practice for that individual learning style.
Okay. So just keeping it real simple, experience this process. If a person is a visual learner, you
Hmm.
just simply say watch and keep the wording very
Okay.
short. Experience this
Okay.
process. If a person is an auditory learner, then you simply say listen. You could be a kind of a little slightly longer winded with the auditory learner because they're all the way into the sound. Um,
Okay.
Experience this process. If they're hands on, you just say experience this, and you're gonna have their attention. They're they're more concerned with how you feel about it. They're more so into you really know what you're talking about or you really don't know. Are you excited about it or not? Because based off the energy they're feeling that they're giving, that's what determines on if it's what I'm saying. That's what they're reading out of it. So it's got to
The
be tangible.
visual learner.
That's for the hands on, the experience. They got to feel it.
Okay.
They gotta know that you feeling it. It's like a hug. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So experience this process of feeling learner. When you're talking to them, what they're getting out of what you're saying is your experience with it. Now, if you're communicating something to an
Mm,
experienced learner and you really haven't experienced it and you really kind of shaky on it, then that's what they're learning from it.
okay. Okay.
Experience this
So
process.
let's
If you're
keep.
dealing with a step by step or organ or a rhythmic type of learner, then they're more concerned on how well you could keep the rhythm of the flow. What is the next step, the progression? How you start from this point and it build and the momentum is building up. You lose the momentum, you lose the step by step learner. Because if they see a momentum stop or something is chopped up in there, it registers to them is that as far as you got with it, and they get it. They're gonna get it, but that's as far as they learned from it.
So in dealing with, so because we're on visual learner right now, in terms of a visual learner, I need to stay concise. I need to be descriptive, and I need to be very direct with the message that I'm giving to them or the instructions that I'm giving to them. Correct?
Direct. Well, I wouldn't experience this process. I don't know about it having to be direct, but I would definitely say be very descriptive, like very plain
So
and
in this
descriptive.
word, direct would mean, so direct would be more the definition of direct in this case would be concise. So when I say direct, I mean just give them the information as it is, nothing extra
Nothing added to it. Yeah, like your
or
experience or how you feel about it. Yeah,
nothing added to it. Mhm.
yeah.
So
So
just
if
what
it's
it
a
is,
triangle, if it's a
nothing
triangle, it's a
expletive.
triangle.
Hmm.
It's not. It's like okay,
Right,
this is a triangle.
right. So
Don't
the
add into like how beautiful it is or the history of it.
mhm.
None of that. It's just this is a triangle. It has the right angle and another angle, and it connects this angle. Triangle. Like that. Like
So anybody
they
that
get it.
would
They
see
see it.
this message, right? So anybody that would see this message, depending on what their learning style is, um, that becomes what the difficulty is. So if I have a classroom full of learning styles, my visual learner, I have to probably give them the instructions, and they can start whatever work they need to do, versus me trying to give them the same information at the same time that I'm giving everybody else. So standing in, I'm only using this because I'm trying to understand it from each individual learning style. So as a teacher, I'm standing in front of a classroom full of different learning styles. My visual learners, I need to be concise in my message, very descriptive, and just that's it. Give them exactly what it is. Very literal. So how do you suggest we deal with in communication a visual learner? um, in terms of me being a teacher or me being an instructor or the other person in the conversation? How do we deal with a visual learner when they're amongst a group of people? I may have said
Um,
that went around to say exactly, but how do we deal with a visual learner when they're in a group of people that may have different learning styles? How do we keep that attention or focus that attention?
experience this process. We could do it in example form of like your plate, your food on your plate. You
Uh
see,
huh.
you got your green beans, you got your potatoes, you got your meat. Now you can't eat all of them at the same time, even though all of them are on a plate at the same time. So what we have to do is target, and we just go after that. We know if we're going to eat the meat, then all the other parts on the plate are going to be untouched. We know when we're not touching the
Mm-hmm.
meat, we know the other parts is going to be touched. And what was, you know what I'm saying? So we can see how that goes. So we're not going to reach everybody at the same time. This is the limitations. Everything in life has limitations and expansion. Limitation is a part of life. So we're going to experience a limitation when we're focused on the visual. The visual is going to be getting it at the expense of the other ones not getting it at that moment. But it's just a moment, because it doesn't take a lot of energy to get the visual information out
Okay. Okay. So you want to go to the next one?
there. Okay.
So some just I don't know what's going on today, but this everything is going slow. So the next one is while that's loading up. This is the next one. I believe
All
this one
right.
was. It wasn't in the order that you because they downloaded differently.
Yeah, it's fine.
This one was. I believe you said process teacher feeling learner. Oh shoot, it went down. I believe this is feeling.
Yeah. So this
Can
one
you
right
hear
here
me?
is yeah. This one
Okay.
right here is process. Another process teacher, because here we have things that's arranged in a rows. So we see the rows there, but
Okay.
what is all of the rows depicting? Things that we have some type of feeling or involvement with in. Well, the feeling, the joy of riding a bike, the feeling of eating the apple, the rubbing of the puppy, the enjoyment of drinking the Coca-Cola, the relaxation of coffee, the shaking of hand, the beach experience, the birds, the Christmas tree, living in the house, riding in the car, the birthday cake is rainy weather, surprise party. So all of this is showing that though there's our steps, but the pictures in which was chosen are things that give these experiences. So this is a
Mm-hmm.
step-by-step teacher that the learning style is feeling the involvement. So they chose to pick pictures of things that you have to get involved with, things that you can actually eat. They're talking about the physical body stomach, the joy of riding a bike, the puppy, the cola. They even more right in your face, because then they put the hands together, the shaking of hands, that you can give it way more clarification. But the celebration, all of these
Mm-hmm.
are the experiences. So we could clearly see that this is a person that the main tone of what you see is the steps. All of these are arranged in rows, but what is the symbols that is chosen are symbols that are experiences.
Okay.
And so
Okay. So the in terms of the feeling learner, these are the individuals that need to be more hands-on with stuff. They need to be a part of the learning process, like in a hands-on way. These are typically
right.
the people for me as a teacher that I would call up and ask to help me with the board or help me pass out information or call on to be a part of answering questions.
Right. Those are usually the ones that have to participate in order to get it.
Okay. In order to retain that information. Is
Right.
it a
They gotta
way
get
to,
involved.
so in terms of this individual, how do we, and I'm asking the same question for each one of them because I'm thinking of them being a part of a larger room of people. This and I'm looking at it from a student. You're looking at it just general human beings. And I'm always looking at it from the perspective of students. This person is typically the easiest to deal with because the solution seems easier. I just know I have to keep this person active and keep
Right.
their
They got it. Yeah.
attention in terms of participation.
You gotta get. They gotta be able to experience it, the feeling. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
It's coming. Like you have to get them involved, and you also have to communicate to their feelings. Like
So, and go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
so, with them, it's the duality concept of me being involved, but the involvement is still a feeling. So a person wants to be involved, but they may be shy.
Okay.
So it's got to be experience. It got to be giving the energy of making them comfortable to get involved. Their
Hmm.
whole learning experience, like the lesson is being given to them, but inside of that lesson, in order to achieve things, they know that it has to be a certain way to feel about it for it to make sense. If this is
Hmm.
truth information that is being given to them, then they are already instinctively in tune that in order to get involved, there is a certain way things have a feeling to you. So they are learning how to feel with the information in order to make and for it to be valid to them. They have to know how to get involved with it. They gotta understand their feeling with it because that's what makes the sense to them. These people are definitely in reality.
So if I'm just if this is an argument or this is a one-on-one, say, adult conversation, how do I, as a person given the information, help this feeling learner in an argument or a conflict? How do we? Because in a classroom, these learning styles are easy to identify and then help, but in real life, that's where my conflict happens. How do we deal with that style of learner when you're just having a conversation with another adult or another human being? You're having a conversation or an argument. How do we help that person then?
You experience this process. You just use the word experience, and then once you use the word
Experience.
experience, you tag what is it that you want them to experience. Experience this view. If you want them to see this point of view, experience this value. And if you want them to experience the value of what's around, what's actually important, experience this process. If you want them to know the progression of the way things is going, experience this feeling if you want them to experience the emotion of the environment, because those words have a triggering effect to automatically they can't resist that it sends them into it. Because when you say experience, it's like experience what they're open to it. Experience through my eyes, you see. Experience through this, through what I'm saying. Now this is the value of experience through this motion. So they're getting, because they're experiencing, they're touching it, they're feeling it, so they're gonna get it.
So the experience is to trigger them.
Right.
When you say experience, it's to trigger them because I think
It,
my teaching style has to come last, if I'm not mistaken.
right.
I'm trying to put it all together. So when I say experience, just like for the visual learner, I say watch this,
Mm-hmm.
or so that's these are trigger words that we're using. Explain to me how that part of it works subconsciously. When I say watch this or experience this or feel this, how does that how does that connect to them as a trigger or maybe I'm using the wrong word, trigger, but how does it connect to their person? So they are focusing, or they are watching, or they are feeling in that moment, or being able to understand me in that moment.
Experience this process. It triggers them because it is their magnetic pole.
Okay.
Is what magnetizes them. This not it would is not really going to make the same amount of sense outside of our own being, because
Mm-hmm.
we have been used to what the way that we learn, and we've been taught that others have that same energy or magnetic pull into learning the same way we do, because we never
Right.
were given the eyes to see how it works in
Mm-hmm.
another person and experience
Right.
it to its fullest. So to that person, once they hear it, it has that effect on them. They're not even conscious that it's been
Mm.
having that effect on them their whole entire life. That's why the only thing they've been registered and downloading in their life is their visual. They only been able to see the visual truth. They don't even know about the process truth that exists, or the auditorial truth that exists, or the visual truth, or the experience truth that exists, because they only been having access to only the visual truth. See, and
And they've
when we're
seen it,
using
it's
this
just
tech,
not their learning style, so it's not a trigger for them.
it's not a trigger
And
for
I'm
it. It is
right,
a trigger. It is a trigger for a person that's not their learning style, because all words affect us differently. But if
right,
they're a
right.
visual learner, then it's gonna trigger them to learn. But if they're a visual teacher, it's gonna trigger them to build.
Okay. But in terms of you being a different type of learning style, you're going to hear those words, but they aren't going to necessarily connect with you the way it would be if that was their learning style, is what I'm hearing you
Right,
say.
right. It's
Okay.
gonna be it is a total different understanding. The visual teacher truth is
Hmm.
different from the learner, because visual teaching is giving. So that means you're giving it visual. But learning
So
is
what's the
receiving
science?
visual.
Before, when we first start talking, you start saying we already use these words, and it normally
Mm-hmm.
tells you what type of teacher you are when you use the word, and it tells you what type of learner you are when you respond to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, can you feel me? Uh, can you hear me? Like
Mm-hmm.
in terms of jargon, we this is already these words are already a part of our vernacular. And do you know the science behind how these words determine your learning style, or how they trigger or connect to your learning style? I don't want to use the word trigger anymore, because trigger has a bad connotation to it, but how they
Mm-hmm.
connect to your learning style. Do you understand, or do you know the science of it, or what is the science of how that naturally works?
I
Basically, where
don't.
did you get this information from?
Oh,
Basically.
well, it's experience this process. I got the information, I would say, from God. It just downloaded in me, and it was really a
Mm-hmm.
message for
Mm-hmm.
myself. So I didn't
Mm-hmm.
even know of its existence until it was
Okay.
drawn for me. I remember, I'm not a visual learner, so me drawing it
Okay.
wasn't me learning it. I'm visual present. So it made me get into the present moment out of my past and future. Like right now, this is the only thing that's existing. This, and then
Right.
it connect. I'm a process teacher, so my visual present is right adjacent from steps, which is my teaching style. So once it brought me into the visual moment with these symbols and these drawings, it was teaching me through the process of what was the next thing to be drawn. And once it did
So
that,
these
each time I
images
went,
that are beside you, these images right here, the feeling visuals that are beside you, how do
mm,
they affect you in your learning style? How do they affect you?
they affect my memory. This right here is pulling memory for me. It makes me
Okay.
become aloof. So experienced this process, I now gotten to the point where I can tell, even without going into details now of a person's wording, because sometimes it could catch me off guard. But based off what aspect of myself it sent me to, I know their teaching style. If it sent me into all of a sudden I'm trying to remember things or I'm just aloofed off, I know they're a feeling teacher. If it's just stimulating me into right now in the present, like I'm looking for things to exist right now, I know they're visual. If they got my attention and if for some reason, I don't know why, it's just like I'm just soaking it in, I know the auditory. If they're saying something and I'm connecting with it, I'm just building with it, but ain't like it's nothing new. It's just this, oh man, I know they step by step because I build with them. So even without me really going into details of hearing it.
Right. So what you said before, this representation, this image is not your learning style, but it is connecting to your teaching style. So it's encouraging you to do what?
The teaching, the role is like nothing is, it's not teaching. I'm building with the role aspect because I already know that. I teach that. So with that coming, I naturally build with it. I don't take away from it. I build with it. But within that building with it, the actual symbols are throwing me into like memories because I experienced them.
So in terms of this image, how does that affect your learning and or your teaching?
So with this one, okay, experience this process with this one, I'm building with it is nothing new because like I said, it got the steps, the pillar, and it has the little clock part. So that I'm building with it. But when I'm going into the underlying aspect, it causes me to focus in and get into right now what it is. So I'm like, oh, they're visual. It's a visual learner because it's affecting me, it's building with me, but it's causing me to I have to get involved directly with it right now. It's causing everything to stop. And what's only being focused and zeroed in. So that's the visual aspect. And that affects me in the present moment. Hold on.
So it's also connecting to your teaching style, not your learning style.
Okay, I'm back. Okay, so what you were saying, the last part you were saying.
So this first image is more connecting also to your. So if it's not your learning style, it affects your teaching style. How?
It affects my teaching style because it is easy for me to build with. I don't feel no resistance. I don't feel no pushback. It's easy going. I feel it with this image, it has me going easy going into focus. It eases me strictly all the way into focus. I feel a strong sense at the end of me having to be focused. But the introduction to it is easy because I teach process, I teach building. So I already know everything is always in motion. So I go right in with it. I get that, that's easy. But then it comes to where am I building to some point, a location. So I'm like, okay.
So the pattern in this is your teaching style is more adaptive than your learning style is.
Right, because giving is a lot more easier than receiving. Because when they come on the receiving end, a lot of times you end up receiving things you ain't even ready for, you weren't looking for. But when it comes to giving, you're like already ready to like you got more control of what you're trying to give to a person, you know.
Mm-hmm. So we pulling up the. Sorry, this is driving me right now. I think I updated my computer and then didn't restart it. So this is the third one, which is. I have to see it first. I don't understand why it's not. So this is the next one.
All right. Yeah, so this one is another step-by-step teacher, process teacher. So this one is auditorial though. Auditory learner. So this is a step-by-step. This is a step-by-step teacher, but an auditory learner. Because like we see once again, we see the steps and you can see the progression of the levels. You got the bottom level and then you got it going up and ascending up. But what they are doing is a form of communicating with one another. So you can see like the person, there's a light bulb going off. So this is at the internal aspect of the like listening to the computer. Then you got this person that's telling the person what to do. The person on the step that's communicating to the person. The other person like they're communicating a chart. And then you got the person up at the upper part of it, which is, you know what I'm saying, dialogue. So we're seeing we're either listening or we're listening or we're communicating. So it's auditorial aspect of it. So this is step by step, but an auditorial learn.
So this image right here, your learning style is more triggered by this or connected with this, correct?
Yup, because it's having a magnetic effect on me. So it's like going into it is easy, but it's like, oh, like I gotta, you know what I'm saying? It's magnet information being sucked, pulled in. I'm like, okay, they're talking. There's talking going on.
Mm-hmm. So auditory learners are what in terms of communicating? How do we keep them active or focused when in a group of individuals? What's the best practice for that?
The auditory learner is concerned with the value of things, like what's important. Like they the ones is only on the important parts. Like you could, like if you're communicating to auditory learner, they're hearing what you're saying, but they're hearing what is really the undertone of it is that, all right, I'm trying to teach you how to build a car. This is a class about a car. Even though you can break down every detail, it's about building a car because that's what the value of it is. It's like when you're reading a book and they say this is the topic of it. That's the auditorial aspect of it, the topic. Then you start getting into like the paragraphs and things of that nature, the breaking down of it. And we got like the process of it. And you got like the other part, which is the visual example form of it. That'll be the visual. And then you have the
So that was going to be my question. So they are very similar to the visual learner in that they desire the detail, not the detail, the direct description, short and brief and to the point. They get it that fast. The only thing is they hear versus the visual learner seeing it. You have to show them. Am I making that correct connection?
Right. Experience process. Yeah. Like the visual learner, the difference between the visual and the auditorial is the visual is not about what's valuable. Because the left side or the right side, neither one of them is valuable, nor is the bottom when we're looking at a triangle. You know what I'm saying? They both are needed in order for this picture to work. You know, so nothing is valuable. They're all the same. But when it comes to auditorial, there's gonna like where their similarity is that visual could show the difference between a square and a triangle. So you know there's a difference, but they're not. One is not more important than the other, right?
Right.
the
So for
auditory
this
versus
learner, go ahead.
I hear you.
No, I was saying for this learner in a classroom setting, I typically, and this in general, I typically, when I see this type of learner, I typically try to understand what it is that they want. And I try to connect what I'm giving them, i.e., if I'm in a classroom, a lesson, if I'm in an argument with somebody, my point of view, I'm trying to understand what's important to them so I then can connect what I am saying to what they ultimately want or what interests them. So when I hear you say value, that's how I connect
Yeah,
that.
because because what's important is another word for value. So you're looking like what is important to you.
Right,
In other words, what is valuable to you.
right, right, right. So my example for this is um uh if I'm teaching a dance class, I typically it's typically going to be an athlete in a class or someone who plays some type of sport in a class. So to get their attention, I connect this with if you want to do this professionally and say you go to college and get a scholarship in this, you're going to have to take this type of class, and they typically make you take a dance class or some type of art class to give your body some type of flexibility, more so a dance class, to give your body agility so you can move and you're not stiff. And that's how I normally connect my dance class to my athletes because they have a value, which is their desire to be, say, a football player. But I connect that to when they go to college, they're going to have to take a dance class, and their coaches go force them to do it to make them more agile and more flexible on the field. So what you're saying makes sense to me because I try specifically for this learner. This learner is the hardest one to connect to because if they don't if they don't value what you're saying or it doesn't connect with what they want, they typically zone out.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Truly. Truly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because because as experience the process, they challenge you to exercise your strength and value.
Yeah, relevancy is the word today.
Right. Right. Yeah. Make it relate to them. Make it how does it relate to me in order for it to
Mm-hmm.
become valuable? Like our family is valuable to us because they're relative. So how does it
Right.
relate? Bring the value to it. And this becomes challenging if we haven't mastered what it is that we're bringing. Just like in biblical terms, God already was self and master, and then he was able to speak the word of God. He was able to bring that value, but he had to first master it so that the word can carry it. So the exercise of that is when it comes to them, it's like you got to make it relate. You got to bring the value, and the only way you'll be able to do that is you have to actually know it for yourself, because self is what gives value to something. So them type of people require you to actually know what it is you're talking about.
It's one of
Not
the
about how you
reasons.
feel about it, but just actually just know the knowledge.
So for you, when I say to you, I am very supportive of this mission you have because it's helping me in terms of my communication and even my teaching. I teach a lot of different things. One of the struggles I see for you is knowing how people learn from that European perspective and actually physically seeing it. One, so this information is useful to people who have already learned the difficult way. Because this as complicated as the messaging is that you're delivering is it makes so much sense when you apply it to who you are. But in order to see what the problem is, like why people misunderstand each other, why teachers teach bad to in classrooms. It's because we learn things from, as you said, a very European stance, from a perspective of Europeans, and it does not connect with us, say, as Americans or Black people. uh and I'm as you're speaking, I can identify, like, the auditory learner is very difficult, and now I'm understanding why they're so difficult. What I naturally would try to do, and I would go as far as say they are more auditory learners than any other style, in my opinion, just from my experience,
Mm.
because it's especially in today's world, I think for some reason that is the learning style that is rising up the most, that you see most prevalent. I'll say it that way, and it's very difficult to attach um, value. It's hard to do that. It's possible because you have to learn how to connect, ask them what they want first, and then understand, okay, this is how I'm gonna get them. This person wants to be a XYZ. The way I get people to love theater, theater teaches you so many different skill sets that you can apply to real life. And that's how I typically introduce it to them. But value to that style of learner is very important. I'm guessing.
Yeah. So you got a good technique. Um, and the reason experience this process, the reason why it be difficult, why it becomes the most difficult part, is because you are
Hmm.
auditorial present. Your auditorial is presence. So I
Right.
know, like in the early videos, I was stating that if you come across like people, when you're dealing with the auditory aspect, is always going to be a little bit challenging for you because it causes you to have to let go of the what you see and get into the present moment. And
Right.
it has you to just simply have to listen, and actually in creating value. The value is only in the now. The most valuable aspect of our whole entire life is right now.
But even discovering in this moment that your teaching style is more adaptive than than we probably give it credit for. In that I was starting to see how my teaching style has already been trying to problem solve and identify all this time versus me just not understanding why you're not getting it. So I'm frustrated with teachers who then say stuff. I don't understand why you're not getting it. So they're just not listening at all. They don't even know themselves, let alone how to identify someone else's learning style.
Is experience this process, that form of communication is the frustration that literature, like what we're communicating now, that this literature was denied from them because they know within themselves they're supposed to have access to it. So then it comes into the childlike behavior of trying to blame another, or is a confusion
Hmm.
aspect. I don't know why. It's not that you really don't know why, you don't have the literature in order to communicate it, because
Okay.
it's already existing. Like you said, you're already using this technique and style. But now that the literature is here to be able to articulate it, it's not just on chaotic, you know what I'm saying, just randomness. Now it is organized. Now you have the ability to put it into order and to use and master that with the of yourself. And now it's
Mm,
acceptable and more easy. Like, well, it's okay for a person not to understand me because their learning style is not of my teaching style. I have to take the time out to figure out their learning style. And once you know their learning style, there's no longer a problem with them learning from you. It was just simply the understanding that this aspect exists until we investigate what it is. Then when we know, we apply, there's no problem. But when we don't know
but
that we can do this, that becomes frustrating.
right. But I think it's also the individual understanding what will inspire them. Like for you, when you were connected to images, I think that gave you a whole new level of understanding. And I don't think that was a understanding of self. I think it, as you said, it motivated you to build on that. And
Mm-hmm.
that key point let me understand that someone's teaching style is very adaptive, because
Mm.
this isn't something that you would have you would have said, let me get some images to be able to dictate what I mean. But everything you do, whether you understand it or not, understand it or not, is visual.
Hmm.
Whether you are speaking about food or you're speaking about health, you're very descriptive, you're very picturesque. Like everything you say is about a visual. But that's not your learning style, but that's how you give information. And that's the
That's
best way, I think, for you to give information, because you have a very deeper understanding of what you're talking about because it's your vision. But for us on the outside, we get lost in the translation because many of us may not be, uh, the learning style isn't compatible with what you're teaching, how you're teaching me.
right.
So the visual allowed you to be able to say, look at this. Because this is a random picture. You could have done this with any picture, or most likely any picture, and found the value in it and was able to express that value. So now I see what you see. Because I
Hmm.
wouldn't have looked at any of these images and saw a learning style.
Because experience this process, I've learned that no matter what a person is uh communicating, it's all
Hmm.
an opinion, which is either their thoughts and their feelings. And I know
Hmm.
everybody's thoughts and their feelings is coming from something that they learn and it's something that they're taught. So no matter what it
Something
is we're
personal.
doing, you can always see it. It's always there because these are the elements of life. It's like looking at a picture and can't see the right side of the picture or the left side of the picture or the top part of the picture or the bottom part. You always going to see the left, right, top, and bottom. Everything that you see in life, because we've been trained to understand it. When we
So
understand
have
this part, we'll see it in everything as well too.
so having these images, how have they helped you in these last 2 weeks since you were introduced to the visuals, connecting your visuals to what you're teaching?
It just gave me the ability to be able to have a more stronger impact on the visual aspect, like a visual learner or a person that is like I know you're a visual teacher, so this stuff,
Hmm.
being able to see the visuals, is not something really new to you. You know what I'm saying? This
Hmm.
is easy. The part that
Hmm.
becomes like the new part is experiencing how to see it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that visuals for me, I think as a teacher are very they're not as literal for me, so they're just figures. So I'm able to take this image and express to you what I feel. For me, my learning style, I'm a person who can, if I have like a bookcase, you give me that, the words matter nothing to me. I can look at the pictures and put that bookcase together based off of the pictures. I don't know how I'm able to do that. That's how I learned how to tie a tie, from a point by point. This is how it goes, because I was listening to people tell me how to tie a tie, and I was watching people tie a tie, and none of that connected. But I was able to break down those. Like ties used to come with these little booklets, these little instructional booklets. That's like old old school. But they used to come with these little booklets, and it would give you a step by step of how to tie. And I was able to learn that way more so than somebody telling me or showing me how to tie a tie. And that's my connection with visuals. It helps me to do what it is that I need to do without all the words and all the extra.
Mm-hmm.
So this new one, this next one.
So this is step by step visual learner, because here we clearly got the steps right there, so that's just a dead giveaway. And then
Mm-hmm.
you can see the books where the person is up, everybody's like up, ascending up of some type of form. So it's showing like levels, and then
Mm-hmm.
we still got the little clocks in the background. And then we have the underlying tone, they got the big giant light bulb. You know what I'm saying? For you to see. So they're climbing up the step in order to shine the light to see. And what is everybody doing? They're looking. They're looking at something, they're engaged, they're focused, right? So
Okay.
they got up to a certain point through what we say climbing to the light bulb on top of the 3 books, and they're focusing,
Mm-hmm.
so they're looking. Even the person where it's the 2 people, what is they doing? They're pointing at something.
Mm-hmm.
So this is step-by-step visual learner.
And so, in the last 2 weeks, in terms of you discovering that this is a great tool for you, have you used it for anything else
Mm,
or went deeper into it?
well, for experience process for myself, I went deeper into it because at that point, I realized after the last time we talked, and he was like to find like pictures. That's when I realized then at that moment, like almost like shoot, it's probably like 6 o'clock in the morning, and
Because
and I was
you
just looking
started
on the
finding pictures and was sending them. You just started finding them, and it was just like sending them.
yeah, because I was just right then and there, I was downloading like, oh, here's this type of teacher, boom, boom, let me send him this.
Mm-hmm.
Every picture I tapped on, I was seeing. That's like, why I ain't never looked at it like that before. But I started looking at
Okay.
pictures and pictures, like, okay, well, every artist is really telling. An artist, a person that's a drawer, is telling all the information within the visual. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So I'm like, if they're
That's how
telling
they
their story,
communicate.
why? That they're communicating through the visual. So I'm like, so let me see what they're communicating. Okay, well, there's a reason why they did that, and they did that. They're communicating. It may have been something totally different from the original artist, what they were depicting, true enough. But
Mm-hmm.
because they're still operating under those laws, I can see it. So then I started realizing when it comes to advertisement, like these is like something that you'll see at a board meeting that they're trying to get you
Yeah.
to get into this briefing or this mission at a corporate or something, and they have this being the little picture background, and then they have the information. And I'm like, all right, so I know they're using this in corporate. They're using visual. They got people where they're paying them to be
Yeah.
able to make this be the underlying tone and this be the theme, but put all of that which you were writing in sentence form in picture form.
Right.
So
And
magnify this
that's
part.
somebody's learning style. It's interesting that you you begin to talk about people who draw or sketch or paint, because each one of the art forms is you can connect them to a different learning style.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it be actors who are presenting words, whether it be painters who are expressing through pictures and lines and images. Each one of them sound, music, dance, movement. Each one of the disciplines of the art can definitely be connected to learning styles, and it's often why they incorporate the arts into school, because it makes it easier for people to learn. If I'm connected to music, it's easier for me to learn. Like for me, I needed music to study when I was younger, where my mother would tell me turn it off, and I would lose focus because then I would start hearing all the other sounds in the house or from outside, and I needed something to just be a barrier from outside noise for me to concentrate. But it's that's another realm that you may want to step into, connecting the arts to um, learning styles.
I
You
would
just
say this, like with you being a visual teacher, right? There's 3
mhm,
types of visual teachers, and how you could
mhm.
find out the 3 types is, remember, the present moment is always adjacent from the teaching style.
Okay.
So you're an auditorial present person, but a
Mhm,
visual teacher. So if you was an artist, right? You'll be the
mhm.
type of artist that would draw pictures of only the things that are valuable.
Yeah.
So then
Mhm.
you may have a visual teacher that's a step-by-step present moment person. So if there was an artist, they would draw the pictures, but only things that are in motion. They'll probably draw running or cycling or climbing or singing. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna, it's still art, but it's always gonna show the progression or degression of within what they're drawing. And then you'll have a visual teacher that is a feeling present. And this would be a person that would be an artist that draws the picture, but they draw the emotions of sadness, happiness, joy. So the way a visual person depicts their information, the type of visuals that they're giving is going to be solely connected to their present moment. So when you're communicating to people, you're always going to be communicating the vision, but what is valuable within the vision.
So this came as one big vision to you, or has it just slowly been unfolding?
It's been, well, experience process. In the beginning, it was one big vision because it was all brand new. But from that one thing, all of this been coming out of it. So yeah, it is start from one big vision, and then from that big vision, it's been blossoming into other aspects. But it's already was there in the beginning.
Well, that's how you are. That's how I'm connecting to what you're saying. These are things that are already within us, whether it be my verbiage or my creativity or my communication skill or where I'm at on that level or how I communicate. All these things are things we're naturally doing. It's not like you're trying to insert a new concept into our thinking. It's things that we're already doing, and we naturally do this. Like we get into trouble, well, we get laughed at in terms of our black culture because we have a vernacular that just seems like it's just a bunch of slang, but it's really us figuring out, did you get me? Are you understanding me? You feel me? You understand? You hear me, man? Like it's
Right.
already a way that we already communicate with each other, and it's in us naturally. And people don't understand that because from a European status, they teach from a perspective of you knowing nothing. So there is no understanding. There's no assumption to understand. You don't understand. So let me give you clarity. It's why we get frustrated with white people who it feels like they're patting us on the head when they're talking to us. Because they're not assuming that we know anything. They're assuming that we don't know. So it's a frustrating thing. And that's why some people just choose not to learn because it's such a frustrating thing and they don't know what is frustrating them. Or they blame it on the individual and not their mindset or just how people naturally are.
See, but the thing is, experience this process, we really don't know. So they're right in what they're doing and what they're saying because
Mm-hmm.
this is what we supposed to know.
Mm-hmm.
We're on their level. If we're on our level, they can't get there. They'll be too busy trying to learn and can't be challenging. Because if you're talking this way and teaching in this way, there is no challenge of feeling like your superiority or anything like that. You're too
Right.
busy soaking up this knowledge because it's like a whole nother way of doing math in a way you ain't never think math could be done, but it actually is making sense and it has never even been taught. Just like when
Right.
you were saying the slang and you was like, you hear me, man? Like when you say you feel me, that's you feel me is more gonna put me into the memory. But you said you hear me, man, it had a significant major explosion impact on me. Boom, I felt it. I was like, oh yeah, we do. You know what I'm saying? Because when you
Yeah.
said that, it
Mm-hmm.
magnetized me. So it's like, this is real. It's
Yeah.
real. Like
And it's real in that it's naturally us. It's naturally who we are. And we spend so much time trying to adopt. And I think my frustration as an artist and as a black man simultaneously is I am fighting against a box. I don't want to be in a box. I don't want to conform in that way. And I have naturally always done this, but now I am I'm open eyed to what I'm doing now. And it's a fight because people want to do things the white way. And that's not naturally who we are. It's not. It's just it's not who we are, and it makes us feel it makes us look like crooks. It makes us look fake. It makes us look backwards. And I think that's why some of us lose our mental capacities because we've tried so much to fit in and it begins to break us down mentally. So this makes more sense to me than me paying all that money to go to college and learn to be not myself and
Right.
then to teach other people not to be themselves. It's crazy. That sounds crazy, right? But that's what we're
Right.
doing. The way we speak, you know, I know being from the South, you've heard it from people who aren't from where you are, or people who, on a class level, feel higher. The way you talk is offensive to some people because it's not a European tone, or the way I talk is you know where I'm from. That's the whole purpose. That's the purpose of language and vernacular and slang. It's supposed to be cultural and neighborhood. It's not supposed to be general across the board. But people don't want to be them anymore. They want to be what is marketable, what is profitable, what is acceptable. So this is it's hard. So
Yeah.
understand that I'm listening to everything that you say, and it's frustrating me because it's forcing me to relearn my value when it comes to learning and teaching. So we have these two images left.
Is that the feeling learner? I
Yeah.
think that's the feeling learner. Yeah, so they were just like giving characteristics of the feeling learner style, and that's well from what I got off the internet. And you see they use the word tactile on it, so tactile is just tactnacular. You know, it's gonna be at the tactful, get involved. So we got moves to learn. Also, we got number one. It says moves to learn, also known as kinesthetic.
Kinesthetic.
They say you learn by touching and doing your fair physical movement and probably good at a sport. Here they go with the probably part. This is when you know they don't know. Uses the word probably. Um, likes hands on, prefer to move, build, touch, draw rather than listen or watch. Like to try something for yourself. And see, this is the aspect. Even I really it really challenges me reading from things like this because I know they don't really have the true science.
And
So they
then
use
understand this is my point in saying I need you to go and learn this in a classroom because this is the type of information that we're given, that we're being taught. That's what I meant by that. So me reading this when you first sent it to me, I understood this is the problem. This is because it's not culturally on our level. If that
yeah,
makes sense.
because the wording that they use. See, I even looking at this picture, the author, the person that put the information, I could tell what type of learner they is, even though the way they were putting it. They said the number one moves to learn. So I already know that they're a step by step learner because they use in order to describe it. They said moves
Mm-hmm.
to learn, and movement is step by step. So
Right.
they're communicating that they're like to do it themselves, they hands on. But the fact that they
Right.
use moves to learn lets me know that they were conditioning it under their learning style.
So the pushback that you're going to naturally get from this is from these individuals that create stuff like this. Because so look at it from you saying your children. So are any of your children in pre-K to say first grade yet?
Not yet.
So pre-K is what they're doing now in public school pre-K is Well, it's what they've always done, but now it's more of a psychological thing, a more therapeutic thing, sociology. They're using adult concepts to, in their words, train children how to learn. So your child will naturally start walking when they feel like it, not when someone forces them to. You can
Right.
give them the you can give them the action. Like I remember I used to my foster brother, I used to put a pillow under his stomach, and we would just sit up. So I was showing him how to sit up. He didn't sit up until he felt like it, but I was giving him the actions. But they don't teach it that way. I am training your child how to have motor skills, how to speak. And it's the how part that I have a problem with, because they're teaching us how they speak. They're showing us how to have motor skills. That's writing with a pencil, how we use our hands to write with a pencil, or how we learn how to write in between lines. And they're showing us how to do it the way they do it versus how I naturally do it. So your kickback from these institutions will be your way is too primitive and you're moving the child backwards. That's how they're going to show you your black self is teaching when you get to that realm. That's
Which is
that's why I kept, and if you understand, that's why I kept saying go into a classroom and take educational classes. Education means you're learning to be a teacher, and you will get frustrated the first week. As soon as you look at the syllabus, you will see stuff like this picture that's in front of you right now, and you will see it's really deprogramming and reprogramming.
yeah, like you said, if I was to be teaching and they would use the word saying that what I'm teaching is primitive, then I would say that is correct. It is primitive because primitive goes into prime, and we go into
Mm-hmm.
the prime of our culture. We are the highest on the totem pole, so
Mm-hmm.
that'd actually be a compliment. But like you said, it'd be definitely frustrating seeing that because my natural ability is going to be able is naturalizing things. And I'm seeing some unnaturalness. But I understand
Mm-hmm.
the unnaturalness, but it's not it can't program me. So it'll be the aspect of me being I won't be able to accept the program. I won't be able to accept the program as law. I'll be able to accept the
Mm-hmm.
program as an assumption.
But they connect, and there is a correlation between learning styles and how we learn and how we uh, take on information and our DNA, what we naturally get from parents and our ancestors, and then the sociology of it all. Everything for them is the study of the brain and how to train us. So they're trying to focus on repetition
Mm-hmm.
versus a child is going to walk, talk, speak when they feel like it. When they feel like it. Because in a child's mind, I am looking at how I see these people around me do things. And that makes their feet start moving. And it makes their legs start. You see a baby and you may be doing something and you may see them mimic a gesture. And that's what they're absorbing what they see. So once they start putting that together, then a child will crawl and walk. And if you're constantly focusing on the child, then they'll do things before you even thought they could do them, like standing up and walking at a couple months versus at one. And they are on this system. By one, you need to learn XYZ. By two, you need to learn. And that's not how we naturally learn things. We're not on a schedule. We're on Earth's time, like a natural order of things. And so that's why I'm so excited that you are saying these things, because that's not how we're being taught to teach other people, which is dangerous because we're being taught to reprogram people. So take what your natural abilities or your natural instincts, with being taught to take that out of you, and then put this in you, which goes against who we naturally are.
Right. Which causes stress and frustration, self-hatred,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of these things.
So this is the other one.
That's got to be the auditory learner.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see. So they say here's to learn. And they say you learn by actively hearing and listening. You are likely to be good at remembering conversations and the words to songs. See, that part right there. Yeah, you're going to be a good listener and you're going to talk in order to it. But when they're connecting the auditory learner to auditorial memory, that's where they're disconnecting information at. Because because you're a good learner at hearing doesn't mean that you're going to remember what was heard. It doesn't work like that.
Yep.
Yeah, they got that part messed up. So then you have a person thinking they're saying, okay, I know I'm an auditory person, but they're struggling to be able to remember the songs. They don't remember the song. Like me, I'm an auditory learner. I'll remember the songs, but I can remember certain parts of the song based off the way the feel of it was. So when I learned of the sound, it gave me a certain feeling. So when I connect and try to remember, I remember that feeling. And based off the feeling that I got, the sound comes out of that feeling. But just remembering the whole song, that's not gonna happen. I just remember I liked it when the beat did like that and how they said that, and it went with that feeling. So I remember the feeling, and when I remember the feeling, then the word transfers out of it because I'm remembering the feeling. When I'm remembering the feeling, what I'm learning from that feeling is the sound that came with it. So I'm sitting
beside you. I'm sitting beside you, listening to that song for the first time, also, and I get it in a totally different way.
Right, you're gonna get it in a totally different way because you're gonna remember way it made you. What you're gonna remember is the way it was building up a certain pattern, and when you remember that pattern, a certain feeling gonna hit. You gonna remember the way you felt when that pattern hit.
Right.
So you're gonna you'll probably remember the tone, the frequency. You know what I'm saying? The way it was building up or whatever was repeated, the pattern.
Right.
And you're gonna remember that.
And it attaches to you. Like I'm a person that even if I haven't heard a CD or album in a long time, I'll hear a smidget, and then once that song is coming to an end, I'm thinking about the CD, and I know what song comes next. But then because it's YouTube, it's been shuffled, so that's not the next song that comes next. So that's and my issue with how like these forms are written. It's the same reason I don't like statistics, because statistics, they aren't everybody. You just took a certain number of people, and with science, you said these 100 people represent the this group of people at large, and that's so not because everybody has a different combination, and you don't understand how this individual learns. That's been my frustration in the classroom for a long time, because they'll put all these different types of people in the class where I really think they should be structuring the classes based off of what your learning style is, and not necessarily your last name or a random order. Not to say that you couldn't learn from other learning styles, but in your formative years, it is very important for you to know how this child learns, because there's a lot of information that child needs by the time they get to the 5th grade. And if they don't have it, the rest of their educational career is going to be downhill or a roller coaster or very difficult.
Yep. And you could find out experience process. You could find out a child's learning style, teaching style, memorization, and present moment style, all the way from the age from once they up to 12 months. You can figure it out, even though they don't know how to talk, because it ain't with children. It's not about talking. They understand the way the vibration of the words make them feel. So if you have a 12-month-year-old and you say to the 12-month-year-old, hey, if I was to teach you something that you do not know exists, would you want me to show it to you, tell it to you, get you involved, or provide steps? And depending on which word you say, tell it to you, show it, the way they react to it, the word they react to, that's their learning style, and they're going to react to it because it's going to have a magnetic effect. You're like, oh, boom, that's the learning style.
Okay.
Then when you ask them the next, you use whatever term is there visual, then you say, okay, watch your teaching style, watch this process. If you were to teach me something that I don't know exists, are you going to tell it to me, get me involved, or provide the steps? And they're going to react to one of them words. They're going to react to it, and you're going to know. Because they're gonna express it through the feeling, because they're more feeling it. They don't know how to talk, but they're gonna give it with their body language, or they even try to say a word. You'll know they're gonna, because the children already come here knowing their self. They ain't been conditioned and brainwashed. It's just we don't have a system in place to receive them as they are. We start dictating and trying to tell them who they supposed to be based off our assumptions. But
Deprogramming.
they
It's
already
a
come here.
deprogramming them. And
I've
it's
learned.
and it's yeah. I mean,
I've
even
learned.
going back to our own experience being in the classroom, that's what it felt like. It felt like everything that I did was not right. And you were putting into me what you thought was important for me to have versus seeing where I'm at and understanding where I wanted to go and giving me the resources to get to that point. And that's difficult because you got 30 kids in a classroom, but it has to happen some way. And that's why I think what you're teaching it needs to be in a school, but it also needs to be at home, and it needs to be something that's taught on a community level. All through, because when I send a child home, when I get them the next morning, I have to do the same thing I did the next day to catch them up to yesterday to today. They've lost everything that I gave them yesterday. And today, when you teaching, the next day is a different objective. It's a different lesson plan. So if you've lost what I gave you yesterday, today not go that's gonna go totally over your head.
Yeah.
But this is
I've
very
learned
interesting.
I've learned experience this process that when I ask children these questions from the ages of 5 on up, they are way more quicker at understanding their styles than adults are. Like children are not gonna like go into like the deeper details of like, well, I think I learned this way and this guy, but then they ain't gonna do all that. As soon as they're like, oh, they gonna listen. Oh, I
Yeah.
gotta see it. I gotta hear it. You gotta break it down. Like they already it's they straight to it. They already, that's I know, like the children automatically they
Yeah.
know. The
But
adults
the
get it
sad
from.
part of it is children are learning earlier and earlier and earlier to be self-conscious and to self-edit because they most of us, our expression is on our face. So if I don't understand them or if I'm not in agreement with them, they're auto correcting themselves right in front of you. And it's like you, I assume that most children were like that because I remember being very green. And then the older I got, the more I learned, the more I became self aware, the more I had to struggle with identity. And it's crazy because you should start off that way if you end up that way. But they're giving children vocabulary now to make them more self-conscious, more hyper aware of the negative. So they're self-editing right in front of you. And I work with babies, and they're doing it right in. They know when you're not on the page with them, so they're then shape shifting themselves into what they think you want, versus uh, who they're supposed to be for self.
But this would be one helpful thing that we have to notice about like our teaching styles as well. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're a visual teacher, so you're gonna show a person a picture. That's your responsibility, is to show a person the picture. The
Mm-hmm.
thing that you can't control is when they're gonna focus on you.
Right.
So making sure that you make it visible, that's your responsibility. When they focus on it, is between them and God.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, me, I'm a step-by-step teacher. So my ability is to provide the steps, but I do not control the time in which it makes sense.
Mm,
Another person is an experienced teacher. They can
right.
provide the experience, but they don't control when you get involved with it. Another person is an auditorial teacher, so they can tell you the truth, but they can't control when you will listen.
Mm. And see, the difficulty in that is within the school system, you have time limits. So they have to know this by this time. And we forgot how hard that is as the person getting the information. It's the same thing for me learning a script. You may learn it, come back in 2 days, and you got that whole all your lines together. Me, I'm gonna wait until the show about to open up, and that's when I'm gonna get mine. And people have an issue with that, but we begin to force children to be, and we wonder why they want everything before they even ask for it, because we've programmed them to be on a speed level, and they're not even really consuming anything. It's just you just got to keep it moving. No child left behind. We got to keep it moving. We got to keep it moving.
Yeah. And that's crazy because I mean, they get it. That's the thing. Like, all right, so if you're a visual teacher, experience the process. I want to say, well, the child needs to be able to get this within 2 weeks. All right, experience this process. Once you show it to them, they get it. It
Yeah,
just how long is it going to take for them to focus on it? You can't control how to make a person focus on something. But if they see it, they can see the hand.
right, right.
How I mean, when they're going to actually focus on it and get the details out of, that's on them. No one has control over that. So you do your job. It don't take me no time to be able to show a person something. I don't need hope. I don't need 2 weeks.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
see, European standard of this aspect of taking away the cyclical information, they just don't know the way things actually work. They
yeah,
just I mean, they got things working, true enough, but there's so many different, way higher up, more balanced type of ways that things come together in a harmonious way. But their objective is not to be in the most harmonious way, because it's
right.
got to be some type of conflict, some type of struggle associated with it. And the struggle is just the aspect of you trying to hold on to the way you want things to be versus the acceptance of what it truly is.
Yeah, yeah. It definitely makes more sense. And the more I talk to you, the more, I'm learning. And I am trying to get the verbiage. I remember we were talking in another group, and I saw the guy trying to use the verbiage that you were using. So he managed to gather the verbiage and the words that you use. It was just he did not understand it completely, so he was using some of it inaccurately or wasn't really effectively giving it to the other person. But it was interesting to me. All I could think was you have a whole vocabulary. And I think without having to dumb down the information and the vision you have, translating and understanding the words that you're using still has to be translated depending on who you're speaking to. And there's a way of kind of generalizing it. So when you gave me your vision, I saw communication instantly. That's what I saw, communication. I also was able to connect it to my work because I'm a teacher in the classroom, and how we our interpersonal relationships are broken because we don't understand each other's learning and teaching styles, and we are broken in the actual classroom because we don't understand each other's learning and teaching styles. We know what we've been told they are, and we know in our interpersonal relationships how we've been taught to communicate, but those ways are not natural for us as people of color. And we've been brainwashed into believing this is what it is, and it's conflict because I'm not understanding you. I just I'm not getting it. Like I kept saying, I felt like I'm speaking a foreign language when I'm speaking to people because I'm saying what I'm saying and I'm repeating it and I'm making sure that there's clarity, but you still don't get it because you on I may be feeling and you may be thinking. Like even those things make conflict because I'm in my feelings and you in your mind. That's two separate parts of our body that we're projecting this communication from. And that's why there's a disagreement.
And it's experience this process is natural, is a
Mm-hmm.
natural thing. It just
Mm-hmm.
becomes frustrating when we don't understand that it's natural.
Right.
So when we
Right.
know that it's natural, like, all right, well, if I'm giving you clarity and you're not getting the clarity, then obviously you don't learn from clarity. So let
Mm-hmm.
me go back and figure out how do you learn, because the objective is that you want what you're teaching to be learned. And they want to learn without feeling like they don't get it and don't know how to
Mm-hmm.
communicate they don't get it. So it's causing this energy in between. So we just
Yeah.
promote, all right, so we create the literature. All right, so what is your learning? How do you learn? All right, so I want to communicate with you thoroughly. I just need to know how you want me to communicate it to you. I'm trying to communicate to you something that you don't know. Would you prefer me to tell it to you, show it to you, get you involved, or provide the steps? Like what would be more comfortable for you to accept it? Well, I'd rather you just provide the steps for me. Okay, organize then. Simple.
You make it seem simple, sir, but this is 38 years of doing it, of knowing these things and having these things in me, but not knowing that they were tools.
Mm-hmm.
I say, do you understand me a lot? Because I want to be understood. And I know that how I explain things is probably coming from my creative mind. So you being a non-creative, you may not understand my verbiage and my creative world. So I repeat that a lot throughout. You understand me? Or I
Mm-hmm.
make it clear this is my feelings. This is how I feel. So you know I'm not projecting that onto you. But I am a whole time I'm not connecting that these are tools that I am now in possession of. I'm a feeler. That's how I emote. I feel. I'm not I'm cerebral when it comes to details, but I'm how I relate is through emotion. How I teach is through emotion. And that is a tool, but if you don't know it's a tool, it becomes a distraction.
Yeah.
And it becomes something of contention. Like that becomes the starter for the fire, and you don't even realize it. That this person not looking for passion. They just want logical responses from you. Okay, this is what I think. And when it's that thing where it's like a TikTok now where they say, you see these two fingers and they go to touch their cheek, but they say put this on your chin. And the person is putting it on their cheek because they see what the person is doing. They're not listening to what the person is saying. So it becomes it, and I'm understanding this so much. It's so clear, but I don't know the journey that you're gonna have to take to get the world to understand this. Maybe you're gonna be like the Dr. Sabi where people get you like eons after you've transitioned and you become a case study like, the Einsteins of the world and such. But hopefully you get it much sooner than that. But
You know, I be thinking about that, right? And experience this process. I learned that a lot of the people that I've learned from are not popular people, but they are geniuses. I know
Mhm.
people that have done like some very great, I'm talking about things like there's a guy right now in Rwanda that has that's killing Tesla. The dude
Mm.
dropped out of school when he was 12 years old and learned how to convert radio waves into energy. Where he took the core off of the TV and made this
Mm.
box that convert radio waves into electricity, into energy that's
Wow.
powering on the TV, making cars that's running off of radio waves. No need to
Mm.
charge up on anything like a Tesla car. No charging up. You naturally just pull the radio waves out of the air, powering it up.
Turn your
Multiple
radio.
inventions on cars, planes, and everything. They claim that they tried to poison him, but nobody's funding him. And they said the reason why they're not respecting his patents is because his patents goes against the laws of physics.
Commerce. No, they go against commerce. There's no dollars and cents. There's no way to make money off of that.
Right. That's what it is. But this dude is created something that means that we don't no longer need a power bill no more. We no longer need cords connected. It's a total different. This changed the whole understanding of what power is now.
Yeah.
You don't gotta charge your cell phone up no more. It's always on.
But
This is
they
life
but that's the
changing.
problem. They try to make money off of simplicity because everybody just want to be rich. The same thing happened when they did the what's the things that harness the sun. Uh, they turned that into a market. Now you got to pay thousands of dollars to get this put on your roof, and those things don't even cost that much. But
But see, this the thing. What it's teaching me is that when you're going into your own, into your people's, into your way, it is the denial of theirs. So it's
yeah,
like you can't merge it. It's like I don't even want to be popularly known. Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't really care if don't nobody. If a couple of few people with this information I'm giving, for the couple of few people that get it and they actually use it effectively, how it's going to shape their environment and the way they're going to move is going to affect the next person. So it's an underground movement that is happening under the radar because it's too sophisticated and it's out of the range and jurisdiction of what norm society is. But it's giving the people that enhance it a more abundance in life. And we only got one life in
mm.
order to live. And we have to live it as abundant as we can. And this
the
gives a
reason
person to be able to be abundant.
the reason I just because I work in public schools, it's heartbreaking to me how we're being treated. It's heartbreaking to me how we grow as adults and we become so attached to financial gain versus how we communicate with each other. So it's this thing of it's only room for one of us. Before I logged on here today, I was watching this documentary on Macy Gray, and it was talking about she really came out at the wrong time because all of these other people came out and it was only room for a few people, and I was like, that is the craziest thing for us. But it's how we learn how to matriculate through this system. Only one or two of us can make it. As soon as one of us get up there, we got to yank you back down because I'm trying to get up there, and that's my impetus to help you spread the word and to connect it because this short time that I've known you, I've gotten so much clarity in self because being a teacher is frustrating. I'm on a hiatus from being a teacher right now because it's frustrating. You don't get. I've realized in the first year of this pandemic when I did my taxes, that year before when I was doing the taxes I was doing, I paid more money being a teacher than I got paid being a teacher. So I got audited for that for that reason because it was more money. I was spending more money than I was making, and I didn't.
Hmm.
And it was really trying to figure out whatever element. Do I give them snacks for them to learn? Do I give them, bring in toys and give them gifts for learning, incentives to learn? Because that's what we're being taught. Give them incentives. And I can't teach from an incentive way because you don't retain information. You just you do to get, and that's not retaining. That doesn't mean you retain any information. So the information you're presenting is beneficial to parents, students, teachers, community. And even if you go to some of these black owned homeschooler groups or smaller at home, like they're not charter schools, but this young lady built this school and she's homeschooling this group of students. Go to and it will empower young people because they empower now young people with vocabulary and verbiage to keep them dumb and submissive, like literally giving them words and vocabulary to keep them maintaining what's wrong with them and not improving on it. So if I this the new term is neurodivergent. So if I'm neurodivergent, I have to, I learn differently. So they're telling these people they can't get any further than that diagnosis. So just like one of the guests that we had on here before, she had a list of why she could not learn versus you can learn. But
Yeah, it's impossible to say a person. I mean, when we really break it down, how can a person not learn? Because learning is like the present moment. Like you're learning all the time. You're learning the
but
next
they're telling
second,
our
the next
children
breath.
they can't. They're telling our children they can't and giving them go to a trade school, learn how to drive a tractor trailer, or learn how to, be a janitor.
Well, let's just say like, all right, you go to trade school and there you learn how to be a tractor trailer. You learn how to drive a tractor trailer. But if you're an auditory person, you're not. It ain't about being hands-on actually driving. You just need to learn the information on how. You could teach a person just because you learned it because you heard it. Like I already know what it is. I learned through sound. Well, the person that's hands-on, they actually got to drive it in order for them to learn it. So they actually go in there to actually do the work. But the auditory person just having it to retain the information, they can just pass it on. A
But
visual person
they have
just
so many rules on how I have to teach you that when you go to learn to drive a tractor trailer, you have to take the classroom and the practical side where you're actually in the truck. Most of the students who would benefit from starting that portion first don't get to that point because they can't get through the book learning. Even getting a GED, like they the how you learn does not how we teach is regulated, and now it's
right
starting to be how you learn is regulated. So
because
if
it's
you're a good
corporate.
test taker, you got to do the work before you can take the test, or you got to take the class before you get the hands on. And the hands on, I can show you I can do this, but they want everybody to have the same foundation, which is you should know how to read, you should know how to write, you should know how to do arithmetic. Everybody should know how to do those things. But you have to show me in a different way so I can prove to you I know how to do it. Because this way is not conducive to how I learn. And I'm almost never going to learn it. And if I learn it's going to be such a difficult process that I'm not going to want to do it anymore.
Hold on,
So,
hold on, hold on.
so as we're closing out of this show, uh, our topic today was identifying our learning style and just learning how we learn and learning how to identify how this person learned. So I guess in moving forward, we can break down the lessons like this. So we're attaching the individual parts, and then once people get it together, then we are able to, you know, you're able to rather, because I'm a student at this myself, learning.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed the podcast, and I hope that it gave some clarification
Hmm.
for people that's following the videos and trying to gain more insight, more understanding. I hope this pretty much gave a strong narrowing aspect into how to really I try to make it more visual this time. I actually try to give it
Mm-hmm.
more something to actual see,
Mm-hmm.
to actually be able to imagine this time versus, just moving and the way it progresses, but it's something that you could actually see and react to. You could
Mm-hmm.
make distinctions in this time. So I hope it brought more clarification this time, to being able to see what these tools actually look like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I again, we're gonna continue to bring you the message, um, and try to reach the people that are supposed to get it. I'll settle on that. The people who are supposed to get it, and try to encourage others to come over too. But a lot of teachers who watch this on a playback, um, it's just an interesting. If you're already in a world of teaching, it's hard for you to break your stride and relearn, especially if you're years into teaching. Some of my newer teachers are getting more out of this than some of the more seasoned teachers, because to them, look, I've been doing it this way this whole time. Let me continue doing it. But yeah, it's going to be a struggle.
Yeah, you got to be at that place where you and hit that ceiling, and you
Hmm.
just like it's got to be something that I'm missing in order for this to be able to come through.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's been another edition. We'll see you in another 2 weeks with another topic, more of Taqee and his vision for a more clarified world, a more clearly communicating world. And I'm definitely enjoying it, and know I'm slowly applying this to my life. I'm just trying to get the understanding and then implementing it in ways. I haven't cussed anybody out, anything, no misunderstandings, nothing like that.
For
That's
sure.
growth. Growth. So tune in. This will be available on YouTube. It's on your page. How to get rid of diseases?
Yeah, how to get rid of any disease.
How? Yeah. So it's on his page as well. So give your social media real quick.
Uh, Social media is how to get rid of any disease on Facebook, and Taqee Salaam on Instagram, and I got communication into translation on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, was communication translation YouTube? My bad.
So I'll put it in the description. So thank you guys. Peace out.
Peace.